Hey everybody, welcome to the Genesis Camp. We have a campfire going in honor of Genesis Camp. This talk is going to be about design and branding and identity packages. My name is Cathi Bosco and I've been working with the Genesis framework for a number of years now. The first theme I got to work on with my mentor was the revolution theme, so it goes back a while. I want to take this moment just to say how grateful I am to all of you who have contributed to helping me along the way. I started doing this part-time and now doing this work full-time, and I could not have done it without a lot of the support in the forums, in email support. You know, many of you know who you are and how you've helped me, but many of you have no idea how much help you have given to me and others, and it's just something I wanted to say and give my complete gratitude to all of you. And I hope this talk will help someone who's starting out or who has some questions about the design and presentation of content side of things. We do a lot of graphic design work and logo design and you know, overall branding, image selection, guidance along all those areas. So we're going to separate our talk about logo and brand and identity out into those three categories. The logo is the identifier of a corporation or a program or a person, organization. It is refined down to its most minimal, simple form, and it is just used for identification. The identity package is actually the collection of all the files that have been approved in their various formats for use by a corporation or a business program, etc. So it's the different ways you can incorporate marks, words, typefaces on different media. If it can be animated, how it's to be animated, if it's going to be for print, the actual files that can be used for print, what's okay, what's not okay. So it's a really like a mechanical group of features and files and rules and regulations about a larger package or use of the brand, logo, and word mark, etc. The brand is the overall perception of the business, of the organization, and or a person, and it's the overall perception of the public. It's what they think of it, and we use all of these identity tools and imagery and style rules and content rules that covers copy and everything, and we roll that into what is the overall brand. And the thing that is something that occurs to me on a regular basis is how this works in parallel to organizing a website for a company, because you're constantly reevaluating what a company or a business does when you are building a website with a client, because it triggers that reevaluation process in the client. And that's something I try to warn all my clients about, that you may feel overwhelmed at first because it's going to trigger this reevaluation, and it's going to get you thinking about your brand and your messaging and what you want the world to know about what your program is about or what your business is about. So these three things are really very different. Logo is a very small part of a brand. The identity package is very important, and then of course the overall brand and messaging and intent goes towards building marketing plans and publishing content online and in print. So we're going to start with the logo. So great folklore, great legends in logo design is the Nike swoosh. Many of you may have heard this story before. I'm going to keep it short, but I want everyone to know that the Nike swoosh, which is probably one of the best logo designs ever, was created in 1971 by a student. Her name was Carolyn Davidson. She was a student at Portland State University. At the time, Phil Knight was teaching accounting there, and selling, I don't know if he was still selling out of the back of his car, but selling running shoes with extra traction on the back out at track events and running events out of the back of his car. And he was selling shoes and using his wife's waffle iron to create these great tractions on the bottom of shoes. And his business at the time was called Blue Ribbon Sports. And he overheard Carolyn talking about how she needed money for an oil painting class. And he said, well, I could pay you to make a logo for me. And she said, great. And he said, I'll give you $2 an hour. And she said, okay. And she started designing. She, did overlays of shoes. It had to go on the side of a shoe. It had to do some things. She had the Adidas 3-stripe mark to compare to. She had to do quite a lot of research on designing a mark that would work on that type of product, that would convey victory, that would convey motion. She reportedly billed him for 17 and a half hours worth of design time. She's also been quoted as saying she spent quite a few more hours designing it than that. And it's a very minimal design. It's iconic. It's instant name recognition. It can be reproduced on all kinds of products and in all kinds of ways. The best part of the story, though, is the part I always tell my clients who I'm doing a new logo for. I sit them down, I tell them the story, and I say, you know what? Nike really took off. And to Phil Knight's credit, he did right by Caroline. He gave her 150 shares when the company went public. I think that must have been worth around $150 at the time, and she never sold the shares up till this year, as far as I know. As now those shares are worth between $650,000 and $700,000. So he commissioned an original work. He paid what he could at the time. Everybody did the right thing, and I just love that story. The story illustrates a few things. One thing it illustrates is that a simple design like the Nike swoosh takes hours and hours worth of work, research, and preparation. Even with digital tools, it would have taken that long to make that logo today. The other thing I like about it is it's doing the right thing. So giving the designer credit, room to make the right design, and artistic freedom was one that was greatly rewarded. At the time when Phil got the logo from her, he was quoted as saying, I don't love it, but it'll grow on me. So, I mean, as designers, we really want people to love the work. We work so hard to prepare for them, but sometimes it just takes a while for the love to grow. So if you're a young designer starting out and you're dealing with a lot of rejection, sometimes it just takes a little while to live with it and use it before people can really fully understand all that you've built into this design that they're going to be able to benefit from moving forward. And sometimes you're just not a good match. Maybe the work that you're doing, it can't be reflected in their style, and maybe you're not a good fit. And it's okay to bring in another designer or to go and work in collaboration with another designer that might be a better fit. You don't want your ego taking over the design process. You definitely want the problem solving of the design challenge to be what you're focused on. And sometimes that can be difficult. And sometimes people just don't know what they want. They like, oh, I just don't know what I want. Well, then I'm going to need to talk to you more about the discovery process, and we're going to have to build into an understanding between the two of us of what you want, because I can't please you if you don't know what you want all the time. Okay, so what makes a good logo? The logo is often the first thing a customer, client, or member of the public might see about your business. And if it looks unprofessional, so will your business. A logo should be a vector file. It should not be a raster file, meaning it should expand as big as the Empire State Building without losing any of its shape or style, and it should reduce down to favicon size, if you will, for clean visual presentation. So it should be designed by a professional. It should be kept simple. It should be a vector file. It should incorporate great typography. When I do a logo design for a client, I do at least 2 combinations. Actually, I do 3. I like to, if whenever possible, provide a standalone icon to go with word marks, the name of the business, potentially the slogan with it. And I really find it to be very useful to have that standalone icon that can be incorporated with the name of the business or without, that can be served up horizontal in format, like in a header of a website, or stacked square, so that we can use it in social media. So we can use it as identity images in social media and cover art and all of those things. So I really try to make a versatile package for clients with their logo, a standalone icon with the word mark. Sometimes the word mark becomes the logo, and that's okay too. We do still try to present a vertical format and a horizontal format or a square format for the client. And we'll talk a lot more about all the different files and formats and what those mean, what's vector, what's raster, what to ask a designer for, what to make sure your client has moving forward to fully empower them as well. So it should have great typography. It should be kept simple. It should work in black and white first. We'll talk a little bit more about the actual design process after I go through this list of what makes a good design. But a good design should work in black and white. It should work in color. It should work on a light background or a dark background or transparent background. It should have balanced elements. If it's a very heavy, weighted, geometric shape image, then maybe the font used should not be really, really thin. You want them to have balance. Lastly, it should be original. I'm not a fan of work on spec. I know that some people are just starting out and they can only afford to put a bid out for $19 they'll pay and have a contest of all these graphic designers who are doing work for free on spec, hope that their design will be chosen. I just don't like the ethics of it that much. It can be great practice if you're a designer and you want to go knock out a bunch of designs as practice, but I find a lot of times there can be copyright issues with that. They may not be original, and they can't always provide all the different file types that you need. And you're just not going to get the same level of professional design that you would if you hired a professional to design your logo, which in my opinion is how we build out from visually for the entire identity package and branding. And that really is important for the website as well. So those things are really important. Say no to effects. Don't design a logo in Photoshop. It gets designed in Illustrator. It gets started with pencil and paper with sketches. So we'll address some process issues. What do you do first? First thing you do is you meet with your client. And the intake and discovery process that I do with a client for their logo is very much the same conversation I have with the client about designing their website. We have to know what the verticals are. We have to know what they're promoting. We have to know what their products are. We have to know, a lot about their business, because we're going to represent it all down into one simple icon. And everything streams from content. Everything streams from what they're doing, what they're trying to do online or, in the market with their products. So it's very much the same conversation as doing web design. So if I'm doing the graphic design work and the web design, really nice discovery process for me, because I can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a unicorn. I specialize in presentation of content, CSS code, graphic design, art direction, all of those things. I'm much more comfortable working with a developer who's going to build a custom or customized website. But I have to do both a lot of the time. And a lot of my clients are smaller, and I can manage smaller clients in-house by myself very comfortably. So the discovery process is critical, and you ask the right questions to follow the flow with the website as well as the logo design. I like to have the logo and the word mark and that done before we start building the website, because a lot of the imagery will build off of that as well. It's like target, center, build out, build out, build out, build out. So we do a discovery process, then we do the sketching. I do a lot of sketching, pencil and paper, although I'm immediately curious and anxious to get to Illustrator and start playing around. Sometimes I'll look around online and see how what I'm thinking in my head might look visually without having to make something online. But first, start with paper and pencil. Third, look at the competition. Look at who their competitors, how they present their logo and their imagery online, because you're problem solving when you're designing. So you use that to build solutions. So you want your logo that you're designing for them to really set them apart from their competition, to be much better, to be more engaging, more recognizable. And that can be a powerful tool with winning the heart over of your client and reducing those revisions from, you know, unlimited to a defined amount of revisions. And I do 3 rounds with my clients. Typically. Sometimes we can hit it, you know, 1 or 2. Sometimes we go over, but my contract's limited to 3 rounds of revisions. Then you move to Illustrator, do some design sheets. My sheets are like full of all different kinds of options. We meet with the client. We do narrowing it down. I punch up 2 or 3 of their top choices, and then we choose the final one from there. And then I take and fill out the different formats and file types. We'll talk about different file types next. So we're going to talk a little bit about vector versus raster. If you're new to file types, you know, vector files are based on a mathematical algorithm and angles and points and lines, whereas raster images are based on pixels, for example. So when you reduce an image down, it can get pixelated. We want to avoid that at all costs. There's a place for it. We have to create a lot of files for clients. This is outside the design process of generating the original art, but some design work is also involved, because these formats have to be specific for where they're going to be used and how things are going to be looking and presenting. Everything we're doing is telling a story visually. We're telling the brand story visually. So vector files would be AI files, Illustrator files, SVG files, also generated in Illustrator, save as, EPS format files can be vector files. Some PDFs are vector formats, some are not. Illustrator exports as a PDF vector file. So these are important things for clients to have in their collection of properties. We create all of those file formats for our clients for each job. So they'll receive their logo in all of those file formats. Beyond that, we'll also do some custom graphics for them. We'll create and optimize JPEG images for them to use on their website, for them to use in email marketing campaigns. We'll save the Photoshop document master files for those. We'll process all their images for their websites and optimize them to the right size, make them very lightweight, give them really nice SEO titles. Processing a lot of mechanical processing of files is a big part of what we do here. We also create custom blog images for people. So sometimes as an ongoing service, we will be illustrating and providing intriguing graphics for people to publish with their articles. So they'll send us a preview of their article. We'll either shoot or use stock, combination of copy, text, and imagery to create sometimes even infographics for them to use with their content. So we are a full creative design studio. Sometimes we're making catalogs, sometimes we're making images for the online exclusively. We're always optimizing them. We produce all of the social media requirements that clients might need. They don't want the egg on Twitter. They want their logo, their identifier to be used as their image on Twitter. We do their cover art for all of their social media, whether it's Google Plus or LinkedIn or Facebook, all of them. You know, everybody has a different strategy in terms of social media. Sometimes we help, we weigh in. You don't really need to be on Pinterest, or you definitely have to be on LinkedIn and Twitter. Or, you know, so we create all of those master files for them so that they are consistent with the look and feel, so people know it's their site. That's the continuity we all need across all platforms. So sometimes we'll also be called upon to do some graphics for videos, social media videos, blog posts, favicons. We can make those. You can make those. We do products for photos for e-commerce sites. So sometimes a photographer will do a session for all of their products. We'll process all those pictures and we'll size them properly. We'll do color corrections and lighting corrections, and sometimes we'll embed different branding things into those images for e-commerce sites. It's a big job. Let's see, those would be JPEG images by and large. Sometimes we'll need a PNG here or there. Do you know the difference between a PNG and a JPEG? They're both raster files, but PNG has transparency in the background, whereas a JPEG does not. So when you're layering Photoshop documents, PSD files, those things can make a big difference. We generally, as a workflow rule, move from Illustrator, and we move over graphics using smart objects, so we ensure transparency behind graphics, layering them over photographs and backgrounds and things like that. So PSD files are part of a package. We'll process large quantities of files by creating master PSD files, and we keep those and save those for clients and give them to them to keep and archive as well. Always backing everything up 3 times, backing things up to the cloud, backing things up onto hard drives, backing things up with the client. So those are some rules and processes, sort of really quick smash and grab style. The files that we use for print are a little bit different. They're much heavier files. So I bring up print because when you're designing the logo and the main marks and maybe even the colors of the website and stuff like that, it's important to keep in mind that RGB, red, green, blue is for screens, and CMYK, cyan, yellow, magenta, black are for print. A lot of times designers make the mistake, and I know I did early on too, of choosing colors to design with that will not translate into print. So everybody loves this like royal, like blue that's just so rich and so vibrant on screens, and I want that blue, I want that blue. Your business card can't be that blue. It can't be that color because you cannot print that color. What they're actually seeing is the chemistry of light. And that is something you want to make sure when you're designing in Illustrator, that the colors you're using are also comply with CMYK, because most people still have some need to have print materials like business cards and things like that, and everything should, you know, be consistent. As part of the session here on Genesis Camp, I've created a PDF that is called Graphics and File Types. It's a sample of mechanical file lists that we generally create for clients, what they're useful for. It also has a little glossary of different file names and their official names. You can get that at my website at www.candstudios.com, at cndstudios.com. And I also want to recommend some other really useful tools around the web. Rafal Tomal's site, he has a couple of style guides that I have found extremely useful. One is the typeset style guide, and then he has another color style guide for the web. Those are terrific resources, and they will really help you step up your game, and they can be customized, and he's very generous with his knowledge. So go over to his site. You're seeing a screenshot of that. We'll put the web address up on the screen for everyone. Marcy Diaz has a really nice SVG vector graphic for the logo for your website, tutorial, how to add a retina logo, how to make it a vector logo, how to make things really look nice. It works well for Genesis and WordPress in general. So we're going to show you her screenshot of her site and put the link right here on the site as well. And lastly, tutorials more on the developer side, but some really great useful layout, compositional, talk about a problem solver. Sridar's site for the tutorials. Go there, you'll join, if you join as a member, you'll have access to some wonderful resources. So keeping in mind that much of the design process is problem solving, and a good chunk of the design process is also being resourceful. So how resourceful can you be for the client, for your challenge, all of those things. What you're seeing now were some graphics that we produced for a client. This is part of their identity package now, how their logo appears over photos. I could tell you a story. We had a bridge in one of those photos, but a bridge did not convey the right message for a financial investment company, as you can imagine. So take a look at these resources and take advantage. So pricing, big gray area. There's no real well-defined way to price work like this. So I'm going to give you a basic infrastructure by which I go by. I look at a design brief, or I do a discovery process with the client, and we discuss how many concepts we're going to be presenting. That can affect the price. How many revisions are we going to go through? That can affect the price and set the scope of the project. How much research is going to be required? Carolyn did the logo for Nike, and she researched the Greek goddess Nike and Victory, and a lot of research went into designing that logo. How much research is going to be allowable? How big is the company? How much exposure is the artwork going to have, and how much value will it have to the company in terms of identity recognition? I would not charge my ma and pa Italian restaurant down the street that's not going to be a chain ever, that is the greatest place ever to eat, but it's going to have local exposure exclusively. And I'm going to budget the project as such. If I'm approached by, let's think of a big company, MasterCard or Visa, to redo their logo, that logo has a tremendous amount of market exposure, and that will command a higher price and higher revisions, further research. It's a bigger project. So those are some general guidelines that you can go by. Always draw up a custom quote for every project that you do. Usually logos are a subset of our larger contract with clients, because we tend to manage a lot of things each time for clients. But it's really important to have an understanding about what the process will be like, how we're going to work together, how we're going to look at the revisions together, and how we're going to look at all the concepts. So I always let people know what that process will be like. We're going to be sending you a PDF and email. We're going to print it out and sit down next to each other. That's important. People want to know what to expect in the process. Setting deadlines, also very important. How long is it going to take for you to get back to me? I do not like to hear in the industry that developers are unhappy with designers' turnaround times, or that designers are not making deadlines, or the opposite as well. Not good. We want to be really realistic about design time, and realistic about the expectations of when things will turn around. Mapping your time and schedule, and giving yourself time to walk away from the design table, sleep on it, show your mom, whatever you got to do to get that creative process flowing for yourself. It's not like you're sitting down to do a math problem and it takes a certain amount of time to go through each step in the formula. It's a creative process. And sometimes You get your best ideas, you know, in the most unusual places. I'm a trail runner. I go out in the woods and go for a run, and I come back with a whole set of new ideas and ways of thinking of things. So that is important to build into design time, and it's not something that is easy to do, because you just want to get the work done and you just need to get paid for it, because we all need food and shelter. But build in that creative flow time, build in that time as a freelancer, because you know, you might unexpectedly have to take your dog to the vet, and you need a little bit of flex time built into things. And if you're realistic about the expectations and the process, you'll have a much more successful experience, and you'll be able to really enjoy the work because it's enjoyable. So in addition to keeping a logo simple, making it scalable in vector, making sure that you don't use too many fonts, no more than 2 fonts, people, and a lightweight and a bold weight, those count as 2. These are all important things to keep in mind, but also color. So once a logo works in black and white, we can start to play around with color. If we're a start from scratch company, we may have more freedom than if we're redesigning an existing branding package or logo package. Color is interesting. It is, we're here in Connecticut, on the Connecticut shore in the USA, so the color emotion guide I kind of go by is the following, but it's not necessarily cross-cultural. So that's also something to consider if the company you're designing for is an international company. Red might be a color used to elicit excitement, youthfulness, bold, woohoo, and in another country it might be danger or blood or death. So those are things to consider, what people associate emotionally with a color. Here in the United States, blue is the ongoing, reliable, business, trustworthy, strength, calming, enriching at the same time kind of color. Blue is a good color for people who may have a common colorblind issue. I think that's why Facebook is blue, is because the owner of Facebook can see it, and there are a lot of colors he can't see. So I think that's interesting. It's nice to design for everyone to be able to see. I love using black and white as the primary colors with gray, a grayscale. Think yin yang, think balance, think apple. What else? New York Times Magazine, Honda, Nike. These are powerful images, stripped down and minimal as well. Green, you see a lot of green used across the board with nutritionists, foodies, eco-friendly sites. Green is peaceful, health, growth, all of those things. Yellow is often used as an optimistic color. I'm not a huge fan of yellow. I also think it can say in our market here in America, at least it can say, you know, cheap, UPS, Subway, Best Buy, McDonald's, the Golden Arches. Just not necessary. It has a place, but not necessarily where I go often. Orange also, think Home Depot, Harley Davidson. It has sort of a cheerful confidence. It's friendly, it's exciting. I like orange a lot because it's emotional. Color's emotional. Let's see, purple can be very interesting to use as well. Yahoo is purple. Rather international color, in my opinion, can be used for spirituality, imagination, creativity. Very useful color. So I'll put up a color guide on the next screen so you can see some of the different brands and how they're using color to elicit emotion. At least it works in the United States. Oh, and then the rainbow. So the NBC Rainbow Peacock, diversity, inclusion, equality. So there's lots of combinations too. Also, part of the discovery process I do with a client is we discuss whether or not a logo would have realistic imagery, representational imagery in it? Is it have a figure? Is it figurative? Is it a recognizable shape or object that represents something? Or is it abstract? The Nike swoosh is abstract. Example of a representational graphic might be, well, the WordPress graphic. It has the W. Even a W is considered representational. So if your logo is just font, that would be representational. If it's a John Deere tractor, it has the John Deere in it. It's a deer. It's a representational logo. So determining from the beginning whether you're going to be going representational or abstract can really help dial in where you should be working creatively, and also help dial your client into where they should be putting their expectations. And that will help you find that happy ground there at the end in your final revisions. In closing here, I guess I would like to say a few things about what we do here. We're a creative design studio, so we do interesting different projects. I taught myself Illustrator by illustrating a children's picture book and then publishing it. So I do catalogs. We do interesting photo sessions for people because I'm a photographer, and we work with a couple of professional photographers here locally. We're located, like I said before, on the Connecticut shore. We're halfway between Boston and New York. I really am beginning to collaborate more with developers, especially developers here in the Genesis framework, and project managers professionally in industry. So I hope to do more art direction, more creative direction, more building of brands as opposed to just creating their files and the smaller design elements. So I hope you found this helpful. We're going to be putting some things on the website for you to download, and we've referred you to a few different places for more design tools and insights. It's a wonderful profession to be a part of. Be original and be realistic about how much work is really involved in design work, and you'll be successful. Thanks.